Never make an exception to the rule. Do not make exceptions. We gotta live with a higher level of standards in our life. Like standards, really standards. And I want you to think about that. Are you really living with standards? When you think about standards, that means you're thinking about a level that you're not gonna go below. Like at a minimum, like this is my standard. And you only gonna live up to the level of your standards, because if you think about it like this, if you have a certain set of standards, and this is why this is so important, you'll be able to accomplish more than you ever thought that you can accomplish, or you'll accomplish way less that you ever thought was imaginable because of your standards. If your standard is, well, I just want to get by throughout the day, and as long as I have some food, or as long as as long as I'm just able to do this or make a couple bucks, that's all that you're gonna have, right? Oh, as long as I'm good and I'm breathing, then I'm fine. So all right, so that means that you're not gonna care about your health, because as long as you up and you breathe and that's your standard, then everything else doesn't matter. Right? You get what I'm saying? So it's more about when you looking at not making an exception to the rule, that means you have rules in your life. Imagine a world without rules. You know how crazy and chaotic and sinful this world would be if we didn't have any rules? Right? Think about that. You have people doing anything and everything that they want, killing, shooting, murder. It's already happening. So imagine if there was no rules, what would happen? So I want you to look at that same concept in your life in regards to, do I have rules? Do I have standards for myself? Because these standards is really going to dictate a lot. If you have a certain standard in your life as far as the type of health that you want to live, then, or that you want to have, then you're gonna live according to those standards. If you want to wake up, you want to be healthy, you want to make sure that you have the energy, or you want to make sure that you look good, you have the muscles, or whatever the case is, you have the body, you have the bad eye on the back, or you got this point, like whatever it is, like whatever your ambition is, right? Or you want your face clean and clear, or whatever kind of standards that you have. You have to be able to know what your standards are, and then raise those standards, constantly challenge yourself to raise those standards, right? Just think, and this is one of the reasons why I love to study and follow people who are just ultra successful and iconic, because I love to see how they think. Because anytime you see how people think, you'll know what their standards are. Right? You have some people whose standards is, listen, I have to make sure that I eat a certain way. There are people that have standards like, I have to make sure that I'm building that type of relationship with my kids or with my spouse. Right? People have standards. Like it's people who could lose everything, that are millionaires and billionaires that could lose everything and they'll have it back in less than a year. Easy. Why is that? Why is that the case for some people? Why some people can do that and others can't? Because it's their level of standards, and we all want to live the best that we can live, but we get to a place to where we don't have, once we start losing our standards and we don't have rules, and every time we have a rule we start making exceptions to it here or there, because could you please come out and do this, or would you mind if I have that, or can I borrow this, or can I get that, or would you mind doing this, and every time we minimize or we break the rules to our standards lower a little bit. You may not even notice it, but every time you say yes to something that wasn't the standard, every time you decide to go do something, like it continuously lowers and lowers and lowers your standards. And we all want to be great, and we've all struggled with that before, to where we had something we said we would never do, or this is it, or this is the last time, but then we find ourselves going back, and we find ourselves backsliding because we've continuously lowered our standard. So for me, after college, right? So I lived the crazy college life, right? Like typical, have fun, parties, girls, everything you think of. And every weekend, like the people would know me, come to the house, and we'd be drinking, popping bottles, and doing everything, right? And I loved that life so much that I decided to continue that trend after college, to where I knew the fundamentals of, making sure that you drink, that you gotta drink responsibly, right? But there's been times where I said, you know what, I'm not gonna drink that much, because I know that I have to drive home afterwards. So initially it will start off where I was in college, and whether if I wasn't drinking, all right, cool, right? I mean, if I wasn't driving, cool, I'm not the designated driver, right? So I'm good. So you drink, but then there'll be times to where you know, you wasn't sure if you had to drive, or you may or may not have to drive, but you would still drink anyway. But it might not be that much, but you would still be drinking, right? And this was me. Like, this is how I continually lower my standards, right? And then I would end up having to drive, but then there would be times where I knew that I had to drive, but I could drink, I'm good. Like, you know, I know how to be able to manage myself. Just did a little bit too much, right? And I know it wasn't right until I continued that trend. And it got to a point to where it's like, all right, well, listen, I'm good. I'm leaving late. I'm by myself, or I'm not that far, right? That's the best one. Oh, you know, I don't have to drive that far, right? And as I continued to lower my standards, the probability increased that I was going to catch a DUI, and I ended up catching two DUIs because my standard continuously lowered and lowered and lowered, to the fact that, mind you, I've already graduated, you know, I'm good. I'm working for a Fortune 500 company. I'm living. But I'm still making these irresponsible decisions. And I remember catching one DUI thinking that I'm good, you know, with one of my frat bros, we drinking at the bar. And I'm like, you know what, I just live right down the street. I know I shouldn't be driving, I'm living right down the street. He was like, you know what, Terrell, you know, just come to my house and crash. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm literally 5 minutes away. So I get in the car, and I'm driving, and I end up speeding. Got pulled over, literally 30 seconds away from the complex that I lived at. And it was at that point that I was like, damn, I'm literally right here. Like, I could have just made it, and I was still rationalizing in my mind. So my standard at the time, it wasn't like, you know what, like this, like my standard was, you know, I could just drive and I could just make it. And although I was upset, it was a slap on the wrist. So I didn't even raise my standard at that point. My standard was still low. And so I thought I was good. So I continued to do it. Less than a year later, ended up catching a second DUI. And I remember when I saw the first judge, you know, this lady, you know, she saw me. She was like, "Listen, you got a good career, and you're on a good career path. You know, don't worry about it. Like, don't mess it up. You know, we understand it was a mistake, but just don't let it ever happen again." Okay. Ended up catching a year later and seeing the same exact judge. And she remembered me, and she said, "Oh, I remember you." She said, "You're back. You know, she said, you're the guy who have the great career, and your mother, helping you out, and you've been in college, you've been doing your thing, and you're doing computers and doing all these good things." She said, "You're back again. And I remember the last time I told you, I don't want to see you in this courtroom again." And she said, "You're back again." And through that, so many fines, and so much time and energy was wasted. And because I didn't raise my standard should have been raised. And that's what you need to do. Like, even if you make a mistake, raise your standard, and don't allow yourself to go below that standard, because you'll find yourself in hot water. And some things you can't take back. And some things, once it's taken away from you, that's it. Your life is taken away from you. Some things you get back, and some things you can't. Some things gonna take you a very long time to do. So when she said, "You know what? We already talked about it," so she hit me with all this time of fines, and and I ended up getting locked up, and I ended up doing it was bad for me. And she said, and one of the last things that she said, and that I remember, and that it made such a huge impact on me. She said, "Listen, you put in a lot of time and effort. You from New York, you came out to VA. Your mother's spending a lot of money out here. You spend a lot of money. You spent a lot of time waking up, going to class each and every day, spending your time and investing your money." She said, "Listen, you have 2 DUIs right now." She said, you will have a felony, and everything will be taken away from you if you're ever in here again. And I will make sure you get locked up for a long time." And it was at that point that I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't throw away everything that I worked for, that I worked so hard for, and I had my sisters, people helping me get through school and helping me move in, and my mother paying money, and all of these things are running through her mind, like, wow, I can't continue to live like this, because there's so many people who rely on me, so many people who invested in me, like, I can't do that. So it was literally after that point that, although I still was making mistakes after that in regards to still drinking and driving, but that always replayed in my mind. But then over time, I started raising my standards slowly. It wasn't like I went from here to drinking and driving to, all right, never again, right? Which it can happen, and eventually did happen for me, like that. But as I noticed, I started just being a little bit more responsible, a little bit more, to the fact that I got to a point to where I said, you know what, I'm not even drinking anymore. Boom, it's not helping me get to where I need to get to, my goals or whatever, and I just stopped. right? So that's the point. So now that when you have a standard, you don't have to worry about certain things that other people have to worry about. But what you have to be careful of, and this is the tip really that I will leave you with, is I want you to think about your environment, right? So this is the key. I want you to manage your environment. And when we look at environment, I want you to write down these 3 things: people, places, and things you need to manage. The people that surround you, whatever your standard is, whether it's, you making sure that you are, you staying faithful to your wife or your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, making sure that you staying committed to your schooling, make sure that you staying committed to your spirituality, you're not doing all these sinful, bad, or illegal things, right? Like whatever it is, make sure that you're looking at people, places, and things, right? People that surround you, are they constantly making you or forcing you or making you feel like you have to lower your standards? If they are, I recommend that you get rid of them or spend less time with them, because the more time you spend with them, the more that you're lowering your standards. So you don't want to make sure that you lower your standards to the place where you feeling bad about yourself, or you depressed, or you upset, or you mad at other people, which you really can't be mad, because you have control of your own life, you have control of your own destiny. So don't let other people make you feel guilty that you have to do for them, or you have to be around them, you have to help them out in some way. So manage the people that's around you. Manage the places that you're in. Right? If there's certain places or there's certain environments where you know that you're not gonna be able to live up to that standard, if it's you not going to strip clubs anymore, or if it's you not going to parties, or if like whatever it is, like you being around people who are smoking too much, or whatever the case is, and that's not your standard, or people who are doing illegal activity, like whatever it is, if you know that when you're in certain environments that you're gonna lower your standard, then make sure that you get yourself out of those environments, because that's what's going to continuously lower it, and then that's where you're going to get yourself in trouble. And then the last thing is things. What things are make or lower your standard, right? What is that? Is that you being on the phone too much? Is that you searching and looking at different things, communicating with different people through the internet? Is it social media? Like what things are lowering your standards, right? Is it addictions? Is it certain habits?